Okay, hello there. Welcome back once again to another video. And thank you for coming back. I'm happy that you're not bored just yet. But you just wait, it will happen. Last time I talked about cycles of time and how the magic frequencies relate to the cycles of time. And today I'm going to talk about ancient architecture for the most part and how the magic frequencies or sacred frequencies or magic numbers or this family of numbers that we've been talking about, how they show up in the measurements of the architecture. It seems that our ancestors, ancient civilizations building megalithic structures all over the planet, they kept referring to the same numbers over and over again. And these numbers are, of course, numbers that we should be pretty familiar with at this point. One of the absolute best sources, if you want information on this, maybe the best source, is this book, Fingerprints of the Gods by Graham Hancock. It's absolutely amazing. It contains everything you want to know and more, probably. I mean, not everything. There's a lot of info out there that it's not in this book, but this book is an absolutely fantastic source, and it's one more of those books that you simply need to have, or simply need to read, at least if you want to know all these things, if you want to get to the bottom of it. If you're just interested in knowing a little bit, then these videos will be fine. I won't share everything from this book, obviously, because it's not my book. I haven't been out there myself digging and measuring things like Graham Hancock. I've simply read things online, so it's only fair that I don't give it all away. In this book, there's a chapter called the Osiris numbers, which is super interesting and shows very clearly how these ancient civilizations were absolutely obsessed, really, with the cycles of time and how it reflected not only in their texts and stories but also in their architecture. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that architecture today. Graham Hancock says in his book, and he's considered an expert on this, and this book has nothing to do with sound healing or anything like that. He doesn't even mention that there's a tuning for music that also reflect these numbers. He says that if we measure the base perimeter of the Great Pyramid of Giza and multiply it by 43,200, we get the equatorial circumference of the Earth. He also says that if we measure the height of the Great Pyramid and multiply it by 43,200, we get the polar radius of the Earth. So the measurements, the size of the Great Pyramid is pretty much a model of Earth itself, or rather the northern hemisphere, if I get it correct, if I understand this correctly. And the scale is 1 to 43,200, 432. You can say that all this is coincidence, but there are too many coincidences in one place here. I don't buy into it. Maybe I'm wrong, fair enough, but I don't buy into it. This is not coincidence. This can't be coincidence. He also says that when the Great Pyramid was complete, before it started deteriorating, it was covered in 144,000 casing stones, white casing stones. 144, once again. How can this be coincidence? Simply not possible. Another very interesting example is the Buddhist temple of Borobudur in Indonesia, which has 432 Buddha statues and 72 stupas. I don't know if you know what a stupa is. It's like a bell-shaped or dome-shaped structure, often used in Buddhist temples. It often houses relics, sacred relics. For example, when the Buddha died, it said that his ashes were spread all over the country, all over India, and the ashes were kept in different stupas. 432 plus 72 is 504, which is an interesting number in itself. 54, for example. And these Buddha statues and stupas are distributed over 9 platforms, so there we have the number 9. In Lebanon, we have the city of Baalbek, where they have dug out giant megalithic structures, said to be the biggest megalithic stone blocks ever found. There's a temple there that they have excavated that is said to be at least 7,000 years old, and it's surrounded by 54 stone columns. Then of course we have the temple of Angkor in Cambodia, where the peak, the top of the main temple It aligns perfectly with the sunrise on spring equinox. Among other things, in this temple you can find 5 roads, where each of the roads are lined with 108 stone columns, 54 on each side. 108 times 5 is 540, which is another number we know well by now. What I've mentioned here is just the tip of the iceberg. If you want to know it all, you need to get this book. And everything isn't even in this book, but this is a great source. In one of my earlier videos, I mentioned the Mysticism of Sound by Hazrat Inayat Khan is one of the books you absolutely need to have if you want to get into this field that I'm in. This is the second book you need to have, no question. Like I said, there's nothing about music in this, but it's pretty much everything else. So I think that's good for now. I want to keep it short and sweet and sort of just stir your imagination a little bit. And if you want to know more, you can go exploring by yourself. I'll be back soon with another video. Much more info is to come on this channel too, of course. If you appreciate the work I do on this channel, you may want to consider becoming a Patreon. You can keep playing my music in Spotify and download it in iTunes. Follow me on Instagram. I'm there pretty much every day. All kinds of things happening. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Like this video so more people can see it. And yeah, once again, just thank you. I'll be back with much more. I'll see you next time.